I didn't grow up thinking my mother loved my sister more. That kind of conclusion usually arrives later, assembled from small memories you didn't realize you were storing. At the time, everything had explanations. Caroline was more sensitive, needed stability. Caroline had always been closer to Grandpa. Those phrases lived in our house like furniture. Nobody questioned them because they sounded reasonable, almost compassionate. I repeated them myself for years. When Grandpa died, the cabin was the only thing anyone argued about. It wasn't a large place. Just a modest wooden structure by the lake, the kind of property real estate agents describe as charming, when they mean old. But for me, it wasn't real estate. It was where Grandpa taught me to sand wood, where he let me sit quietly while he read, where silence felt like companionship instead of absence. He told me more than once that the cabin would be mine. Not in some cinematic whisper. Just casually, the way older people talk about the future as if it's a practical detail. You're the one who actually likes this place. After the funeral, my mother handled everything. Paperwork, legalities, conversations with lawyers. I was grateful. I assumed competence meant fairness. A few weeks later, she told me over coffee. We decided Caroline should have the cabin. Decided. As if it had been a group discussion I'd somehow missed. I remember staring at her, waiting for the part where she explained the misunderstanding. But Grandpa left it to me. My mother sighed, not impatiently, not angrily. Just tired, as if I were making something simple unnecessarily complicated. Honey, Caroline doesn't have a home yet. You're settled. You don't need it. Need. That word landed heavier than the decision itself. Because she wasn't arguing law. She was arguing worth. I didn't yell. That surprises people when I tell this story. They expect outrage, drama, something explosive enough to justify what came next. Instead, I nodded. I even said, okay. But something quiet and immovable shifted inside me. For weeks, I tried to convince myself it was fine, that I was being petty, that families make adjustments, that fairness is flexible. What I couldn't shake wasn't the loss of the cabin. It was the familiarity of the feeling. That subtle sense of being edited out of the narrative. Filing the lawsuit felt surreal. Excessive, almost embarrassing. Friends asked if it was really worth going to court over a cabin. It wasn't about the cabin. It was about the document with Grandpa's signature. Because unlike conversations, unlike memories, unlike family logic, documents don't reinterpret you. Court was quieter than I expected. No dramatic objections, no theatrical confrontations. Just procedural language, measured voices, and the strange discomfort of watching private family dynamics translated into legal terms. My mother looked calm. Caroline looked wounded. I looked, I think, like someone who didn't belong there. Then the judge started asking questions. Not hostile ones. Precise ones. About timelines. About transfers. About paperwork filed shortly after the death. There was a pause I still remember with uncomfortable clarity. A clerk handed something to the judge, pages turned, silence stretched. The judge leaned back slightly, studying my mother in a way that felt less judicial and more human. "Ms. she said carefully, do you have any documentation showing your father amended the inheritance?" My mother hesitated. It wasn't dramatic, it was barely perceptible. But hesitation in a courtroom is loud. "Well," he expressed, "I'm asking about legal documentation." Another pause, then the shift. Subtle but absolute. "What I'm seeing," the judge continued, "is that the property was transferred after death under authority you may not have possessed." The room didn't react immediately. It takes a moment for language like that to translate into meaning. My mother's composure cracked first, not emotionally, but structurally, like something carefully arranged losing its balance. "That can't be right," she said. The judge's voice remained even. "Do you have anything to say before I refer this matter to the district attorney?" Nobody gasped. Nobody spoke. But the air changed. For the first time in my life, the family story stopped controlling the room. Authority had entered, not loudly, not dramatically, But undeniably, the verdict itself almost felt secondary after that. The cabin was legally restored to me. People call it a victory. It didn't feel like one. Outside the courthouse, my mother avoided my eyes. Caroline cried, not angrily, not accusingly, just quietly, like someone grieving a loss she genuinely believed was unjust. And that was the hardest part. Because favoritism doesn't always look like malice. Sometimes it looks like belief. I still own the cabin. I go there occasionally. It's peaceful, unchanged. But something fundamental is different now, not the property, not the law, but the architecture of the family itself. Winning clarified things. It didn't repair them.